I'm Cherylanne Skolnicki, and this is Brilliant Balance, the show for working women who are ready to shine. Each week, I bring you ideas, inspiration, and insight on balance, business, and getting it all done gracefully. You ready? Let's be brilliant. This is episode 346 of the Brilliant Balance podcast. And today we're talking about what happens when women invest in themselves. So as I kick this episode off today, I am sitting where I record the podcast and I have a brand new setup in front of me today, a little bit of an augmented setup from what I traditionally have. You may or may not believe this, but for the entire 345 episodes up until now, my setup has really consisted of my laptop and my microphone. And that's it. You know, this trusty laptop, it's been upgraded a few times over the years, but a very simple MacBook that I work on that I've had, you know, this kind of different versions of this over the years, and a microphone hooked directly into the laptop. And that's it. That's been my work setup. That's the podcasting setup. It is a very simple setup. And this week, friends, I added 3 important pieces to this setup. I added an external monitor, like a second monitor next to the laptop, an external keyboard, and an external mouse. And I hope that you are rolling your eyes right now. I hope you either laughed or spit your coffee out or, you know, at a minimum rolled your eyes when you heard me say that, because it is, I objectively agree, somewhat ridiculous that it is 2024 as I record this episode and I am just now adding these accessories to, you know, my tech setup for my office. And it was so striking to me when I was thinking about how I wanted to open today's episode and get into this topic about investing in ourselves. And I love that this is a real time, can't make this stuff up, literally happened this week after I already had this episode scoped, that I made the decision to buy and have these things shipped to me and hook them up. And I have to tell you, I feel like I'm living in the future over here. You know, I'm confident that you may be listening thinking, I have been living in that version of the future, Cherylanne, for many years now. But as somebody who just has experienced the magic for the first time of multiple screens and who now has her, you know, my hands at the right level on my keyboard and everything is just working perfectly, I'm sitting here with like sort of hand to forehead going, what has taken me this long? Really, honestly, what has been the resistance to doing this? Because this would have been an easy and obvious decision to make for somebody in my line of work a long, long time ago. Okay. And yet, this is a pattern that is not just for me. And I bet if you ask yourself, are there places where if we looked in your life, in your home, in your closet, that we would say, wow, I can't believe you haven't made this investment yet. And I think that is a universal truth that all of us can recognize in ourselves somewhere in our life. I see this pattern over and over and over again with women, that we readily invest time and money in other people that we love, in our families, in our friends. We invest in our teams, but not in ourselves, right? Not in ourselves. For other people, it's like our brain, the gears in our brain are pointed toward the benefit. What will the benefit be to our spouse, our partner, our teammates, our children of the purchase that we're about to make, right? Of the investment that we're about to make in them. We think about summer camps. We think about birthday gifts. We think about equipment for our teams. We think about, you know, experiences that we want people to have. And we often have like a spare no expense attitude to the extent that we're able to when we are taking care of other people. We're thinking about the benefit, right? And not the cost. And yet when the tables turn and the thing that we're about to invest in is for us, we focus on the cost and not the benefit. Right? We think, oh my God, I can't, and it's not worth it. I don't need it. I don't need it yet. I don't need it now. I don't need that version of it. There's all of this kind of talking ourselves out of things. And by the way, I think this is absolutely agnostic of an income level. I know people who make a lot of money and have a lot of money who have this challenge, and I know people who do not make a lot of money that have this challenge. I think this is universal and it transcends income levels. And yet, when we as a collective of women invest in ourselves, we learn very important lessons that I think there may be no other way to learn, right? It's like it reinforces these truths that we might be having a hard time adopting. And in fact, I think the reason we're not making the investments may be more about these, these myths, these false beliefs, these limiters that we need to unlearn. I'm going to share what they are, but I'm going to share them through the lens of what do we learn when we make these investments, okay? And this is something that I want you to really think about. Is one of these patterns underneath your resistance to invest in yourself? The first thing that I think we learn when we invest in ourselves as women is we don't have to know it all. We don't have to know it all. It is okay to invest in expertise. Okay. Classic example would be when we hire an expert to teach us how to do something that allows us to go faster than if we were trying to learn it ourselves. For example, if we have a nutritionist, right? If we are like, I really want to learn how to feed myself in a way that keeps me healthy and feeling good and keeps all of my health markers in check. Investing in the support of a nutritionist who can break that down for us is a shortcut. It helps us acquire a knowledge base that we would not have on our own. So too with like a personal trainer, right? I bet somebody listening today has had a personal trainer and says, yeah, like I would have been lost in terms of structuring workouts and figuring out how to do it, what order, how many reps, what weights to use, which equipment to bring in without the advice of a personal trainer. So that personal trainer taught me that I didn't have to know it all. I could learn it from them. A stylist, right? We're going to talk about this one in a week or two of having a stylist, somebody who can help you put clothes together in a way that look great on you would be an investment that you make, acknowledging this is not an area of expertise for me. Okay. And by the way, doesn't have to be people. Think about investments that you've made maybe in books over the years. Y'all, I have spent a small fortune on books over my lifetime. When I think about my early 20s in particular, I traveled a ton for work and I bought a book like every time I was in the airport. I was buying another nonfiction book, either personal development or a business book or a text about finance. Like I was learning and learning and learning by making those investments in books. We make investments maybe in seminars that we attend or workshops or conferences where we're going to learn something that we don't know about and we're going to get that knowledge from someone else. At a more elevated level or extensive level, we might take a whole course in something. It might last 6 months or a year. I know I've had clients take courses in real estate investment, take courses in digital marketing. People take courses in cryptocurrency. I've had people take courses in, lots of like how to get better at doing this thing that you don't know how to do, generically speaking, right? Teaches us like there is somebody ready to teach you how to do things that you may not know how to do. I think therapists are a great example. If you work with a therapist, you are probably seeing already how much of how your mind works you never were taught, right? We just were not taught these things in our education, particularly back in the day when most of my listeners were growing up. And a therapist just sort of session by session gently unpacks this expertise so that you realize I don't have to know everything, right? Coaches across the spectrum, business coaches, executive coaches, life coaches, health coaches. These are people who have invested in their own development, their own careers, so that they can transfer that knowledge to you, so that you don't have to spend as much time as they spent learning how to do something. You can plug into their knowledge and they will feed it to you, right? Kind of meet you where you are to get you to where you want to go. So that is the first very important lesson that I see us learning. We don't have to know everything. When we invest in ourselves all the way up to getting an advanced degree, to go finish an undergraduate degree, get a master's degree, get a law degree, going back to school to get a PhD, we learn, wow, I can make an investment in this and acquire this knowledge. I don't have to know everything, right? You weren't born and sort of programmed at birth and through adolescence to know all the things about all the things. You're allowed to invest in yourself to acquire more knowledge. Hi, it's Cherylanne. Thanks for listening. Did you know that the ideas I share on this show are things I also can help you implement? If you want me in your corner helping you find more time for what fills you up, go to brilliant-balance.com/schedule and sign up for a free exploratory call. Give yourself this time. You'll be so glad you did. Second thing I think we can learn is that we don't have to do it all, right? Not only do we not have to know it all, but we don't have to do it all. There are investments we can make that multiply our time, okay? I think probably the most prevalent one that I see people making an investment in is having a housekeeper or someone to help them clean at home. And making the investment in having support to clean at home gives them the time to then do something else, right? There's an investment made to say, I am going to help this person who is going to make their living by cleaning a house so that I can take my time and do other things. We make investments in lawn care, right? I think it's probably the second most common one. Maybe they're flipped. Having somebody to come and mow the lawn or deal with the putting mulch down and taking care of trees and plants and things that we are not experts at. If you do not have a green thumb and you do not know how to tend to the plants that you have, but you love having them around, that is not something that has to be done on our own. We can have someone come and help, and that might be something that you do. Childcare. Lots and lots of us who listen to this podcast are making investments in childcare because we cannot care for our children full time and work full time. Many people listening to the show work full time or close to full time. And so having some type of childcare support is an investment that we make and one that we often make willingly, right? There are others though. There are others that are less adopted that could help us remember that we do not have to do it all by ourselves. I have watched women in programs with me make the decision to invest in people to help prep meals. You might use something like HelloFresh or Blue Apron, one of these like meal kit services. That would be an investment in not having to do it all. You have somebody come into your house and prep meals, prep snacks, get healthy foods available for your family, just like a couple of hours a week, right? We have people making investments in personal shoppers who will go out and run errands and do the shopping around town that needs to be done. Hours and hours and hours being reclaimed through that investment, all the way up to personal assistants. Someone who is a fully dedicated assistant. One of my early bosses when I was working in my corporate life had a household manager was the title that they used, someone who ran a lot of the things at home. And the woman I worked for would keep a list and just essentially outsource a lot of the things that she may have been doing on her own at home because she had a demanding full-time job and 2 kids at home who she wanted to spend her time doing things with, not having to run all the errands and handle all the things at home. So all the way up to something like a full personal assistant or household manager. So there's so many places on this spectrum, everything from a meal prep kit that gets delivered to your front door every week with, ingredients that are prepped. If you've not used one of those services, I'm sure you've heard them advertised, right? Up to part-time to full-time help to do an array of tasks that can multiply our time. So those are things I'm talking about at home. If you think about things at work, when Tim Ferriss wrote years ago, The 4-Hour Work Week, he really introduced, I think, broadly into like the mainstream world. He introduced this idea of having outsourced support. And I remember reading Tim's book. It was like 2007 when I read it. I don't remember when it came out. And he was talking about hiring a virtual assistant. And I had never even heard of a virtual assistant. And he was enlightening the reader that you can hire them, from all around the world to do work, to do discrete tasks using internet-based communication. Well, now that seems so obvious that you could do that, right? It seems so obvious that you could get help doing things that can be handled over the internet, right? Virtually. It seems so obvious, but it did not seem obvious in 2007. Websites like Fiverr, websites like Upwork, where you can go and outsource project-based work. Lots and lots of online services that can help you at a cost, often at a cost, get this lesson that we do not have to do it all. There are so many things when we make the investment. That task can be done by somebody who is an expert in it, who can do it more efficiently, who maybe has technology at their fingertips that we don't have to enable it. We get time back and we get the benefit of the thing being done. Okay, we get to enjoy the thing being done. So those are the first two. The first lesson I think we learn is we don't have to know it all. The second one is we don't have to do it all. And the third one is we are allowed to live a little, right? It is actually okay to make an investment in something because it makes our life a little bit more pleasurable. And so, I'm going to break this into things and experiences, but things might be buying the good coffee. Have you ever been in a coffee shop or looking at brands of coffee and thinking, this one's not my favorite, but I'm going to sort of drop it back to this one, right? I'm not going to get the one I really want. I'm going to get this other one. Buying the good wine, the good cheese, the good gluten-free bread, the one that actually makes you feel good that you really want. The extra investment may be a lot smaller in something like this than it is in having a personal assistant, as an example. But these are the small pleasures that remind us, like, we are allowed to live a little. Everything doesn't have to be the most cost-effective version. Skincare, and beauty care products. I love the meme that is circulating on the internet about the mom who's sneaking into her tween's room to get the good stuff out of her makeup bag. Not that I have ever done that personally, but the kids are shopping better brands of skincare and beauty care often than we are. And that is, an example of, like, we are allowed to have the good product that makes our skin feel amazing, right? Clothing that's in style, that fits well, that feels great. And again, more on that coming soon in a future episode, but the opportunity to have clothes that we like, that we feel good in, instead of what's on sale, right? And I know so many women who say, I don't like the stuff in my closet. I don't feel like I have the stuff that makes me feel like it's in style, it's current, it fits well, but I just, I have it, so I may as well wear the stuff that's here. But if we don't let ourselves live a little and have the experience of a really great piece that we love, right, we're missing out. My technology example from earlier, like the technology that makes life a little bit easier. I could probably give you 100 examples and you could think of 100 more places where there are pieces of technology where having something that really works, that has all the functionality we want, really does make life a little better. And little luxuries, things like bringing fresh flowers into the house. For Mother's Day, my youngest daughter picked out flowers and it's so sweet and I love them. And there's this mixed bouquet of things. And then I took them and I put just one or two into tiny little vases and put them kind of in different spots around the house as they started to die. I kept the ones that were alive. Such a lovely little touch, right? Buy yourself flowers, a la Miley Cyrus, right? And put them in places around the house, little places that say it's okay, right? You can get a bouquet of flowers for $6 to $10 at Trader Joe's or at your grocery store and break it up and have that little experience. Like, those investments that we make in ourselves just for us do not have to be big and expensive. They can be small, but they're meaningful if they're reminding us that, like, we're worth it. It's okay for us to live a little. On the experience side of things, what are the concerts that you want to see? What are the plays that you want to be in the audience for? What are the sporting events? And by the way, which seats do you want at those things? Getting a great haircut, right? Giving yourself permission to say, I'm going to get great highlights, a great haircut. Go to that restaurant that you really want to try. Like, these are investments that we can make in the things we want that remind us, like, we don't have to say, like, oh my gosh, I'm so thirsty, but the bottled water costs $2.79 and I don't want to buy it. Okay. And I hope that someone listening is smiling when you hear me say words like that and it's resonating and you're thinking, oh, this one is for me. Because this is not an episode about let's go spend all the money on all the things. You could ask my husband, my team, anybody close to me if that's how I operate. And the answer is no. right? And that's why this episode matters to me, because it's actually challenging to give ourselves permission to do these things. There's a certain archetype, a certain sort of wiring that we grow up with, or that we're born with, or that we learn over time that says, I am supposed to know how to do everything. I am supposed to do it all by myself. And really, I don't need much to live, right? Other people can have these things and I don't really need anything extra. And I think when we unlearn those lessons and we say, I don't have to know it all, right? It's okay to go learn something from someone who's an expert. I don't have to do it all. I can invest in some support for some of the activities so that I can have the life that I really want to have. And I am allowed to live a little, right? I'm actually worth it. It is worth having these joyful experiences. When we learn these things, we enable ourselves to do more with the time that we're given, which, by the way, is the one finite resource we've got. And we learn how to enjoy it more. Less frustration, less inefficiency, and just overall more joy. So I want to close with this, asking you, what is a tangible way that you might invest in yourself this week? Maybe something I said today prompted an idea for you and you can execute this week. Or maybe this summer. What's a tangible way that you can invest in yourself this summer or this year? And when you find yourself resisting, when it's time to do it and you're at that 1 yard line resisting, I want you to really think about why and challenge yourself. Ask yourself, is there something I might learn just by the very act of making this investment that will benefit me for years and years to come? I hope you do it. That's all for today, my friends. Till next time, let's be brilliant.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.